Hi everybody and welcome back. I am Tiffany with Voices for Independence, Fitness and Activities, and I am here to share another recipe with you as we continue our series on cooking across America. Today what I have for you is we are moving up to the New England area and we are going to be visiting Maine. Maine's known for a lot of stuff, from its crab to the wonderful seafood off the coast. But they're also well known for their wild blueberries. They have wild blueberries that grow there that are harvested and shipped all over the country, and they're well known because they're different than the typical blueberries we'd see or grow in this area where they are grown more on a bush. These are lower to the ground, and they are said to be smaller but a sweeter taste. So we are going to be making authentic, well, not quite authentic. Unfortunately, I don't have Maine wild blueberries, but I do have some delicious organic, locally grown blueberries that we're going to be using today. But we're going to be making a blueberry pie. Again, sometimes pie making can be intimidating to people who don't bake a lot, but it's really one of the simpler baked goods that we can make, especially if you buy pre-made pie crust or pie dough like I did today. If you're ambitious and you are an avid baker and you do have some time, because it does take a little bit more time involved in making your own homemade crust. But if you buy the pie dough at the grocery store, this is a very simple recipe that I know any of you can do. So what you're gonna need, we are taking a bowl and we are going to mix some ingredients together because we're gonna coat our blueberries in a little bit of sugar and some sweetness, and then we will be baking it in the oven. So it's really not that many ingredients because we're using our fruit here is the main ingredient in the recipe. So you need a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. What the 1/4 cup of cornstarch is going to do, that is really going to bind with the juices and sugars in the blueberries as they break down and thicken the juice inside the pie. That way it's not super runny and it kind of holds our pie together. So it's a thickener. That's what we use cornstarch for when we use it in gravy or other sauces. And we use it because it thickens our recipe, and it's going to have the same effect with the liquids in the blueberry from the juice and some lime juice we're adding, and it will help hold our pie together. We're also going to add 1/3 cup of white sugar and 1/3 cup of light brown sugar. And then we're going to whisk those together, and just to break them up a little bit because that brown sugar gets packed together and can be a little bit clumpy. So we're going to definitely want to blend our dry ingredients. I know a lot of times I tell you I skip this step of mixing the dry ingredients together, but this is an important step in the blueberry pie because this is what's going to be coating our blueberries. So we want the dry ingredients to all be mixed together so all the flavors are evenly distributed when we add our berries. Now also it says to add the zest of 1 lime, so I'm just going to dry my lime off a little bit so it's not super slippery. And if you don't have a lime in your house, that's quite all right. It's not going to make any huge difference to your pie if you don't have your lime. But this is a zester, and what it does is there's these little sharp edges on here, like little blades, that are going to very gently take the very first layer off our fruit skin here, off the lime. You can do this with oranges, orange zest, or lemon zest. You don't want to stay in one area too long, then you're going to get down to the bitter pulp of the skin, which is not very flavorful. We just want the outside. So make sure that you have washed your your fruit or your vegetable. If you're doing something like this, make sure you wash it really well. If you don't buy organic, especially, because you want to make sure you get all those pesticides or dirt or whatever people have been handling them. You want to make sure all that is off. So once you do that, sometimes they'll stick to the back of your zester. So just brush it down into your dish. So we have the zest of 1 lime, and it also calls for the juice of 1 lime. Now again, let me get a knife. If you do not have a lime at home and you just have lime juice, they say 2 tablespoons is equivalent to 1 lime. They suggest that's about how much juice you would get out of one of your limes. So I'm just gonna juice it right over though. I have a juicer. So you just kind of twist your fresh fruit on top and it will keep the pulp from going down into your dish and the seeds, but all that delicious fresh citrus juice will go right into the mixture. So we are going to do both halves because they say from a full lime. And again, 2 tablespoons is equivalent to the juice of 1 lime. So if you just have the lime juice at home, you can substitute lemon juice here as well. All right, so our lime juice is added, our lime zest, and now I'm just gonna whisk that together a little bit. It's gonna start to clump up in your bowl, and that's fine. It's kind of turning into similar to a little bit of a batter, and that's what we're looking for, because now we're gonna add our blueberries in, and we're gonna lightly fold them in. This could be probably the most difficult part of the whole recipe, just because you don't want to smash your berries, but you want to make sure they're evenly coated. Plus, we washed our berries, and so they're a little damp. So sometimes your mixture might not stick as evenly as you think, but it is getting onto them because, again, all the liquids in here are helping spread the sugars out. So I'm just, if we don't lose too many, I'm just going to make sure I evenly toss the blueberries in the delicious sugar that we put it in, which is going to help make the almost like the blueberry sauce that's inside the pie. It's naturally occurring once you add more sugars. Adding sugar to berries helps draw out the natural sugars as well in the cooking process. And sometimes berries can be a little bit tart, especially if they're not the wild blueberries, as they say, or have a sweeter taste, and ours are not the wild blueberries. So sometimes you can get tart ones, so to help cut that flavor, make it a little bit sweeter, as in a dessert pie, you want to add these sugars. All right, so our blueberries are nicely coated in all our sugar and other ingredients. Now to do our pie crust. So you'll need a pie pan. It looks similar to a cake pan, but the sides are out at an angle. And what you're gonna need, you will need 2 full pie crusts for this, because we are going to be putting a top on our pie as well. And I'm hoping you can see from the angle that we're at here. But again, I bought a store-bought pie crust, so I'm just gonna roll it out and unfold it right into my pie pan. Now, some people, this is where they get intimidated. They're like, how do I do that fancy crimped edge and all that? We don't have to really worry about that quite yet. And it's not all that important, but it is also very simple. But to begin with, though, we are just going to make sure that we are down in the edge. I don't want to call it a corner. It's not really a corner, but make sure that your pie crust is sitting nice and flat in the bottom of your dish. Now, for the edge, I'm not going to go around and fold or crimp it quite yet, because we are going to do a top crust where I'm going to show you how to do a simple lattice technique. That's a crisscross crust that you see on top of pies in pictures or at restaurants. Again, don't be intimidated. It's easier than you think. It just takes a little bit of time, but we'll do it while we're here. So once that's in there, we are going to put our berries right in. We do not need to pre-bake the crust at all, so make sure that you don't buy a pre-cooked crust. We want the dough, and then we're going to put our berries in. Oh, I forgot to mention, it's 2 pints of berries, so that's equivalent to about 4 cups. And if you feel that your pie dish or your berries might be small, feel free to add a few more in. I put mine away. So this looks like all it's going to be today. They'll cook down a little bit. Actually, I'm going to grab a few more real quick to add in, because this pie is going to go to some office staff, so I want to make sure it looks delicious so they can enjoy it. So you can top off, I'm back, sorry about that. So you can top off your blueberry pie with some extra berries. So I'm just going to open up my berries and put a few more in. I had washed them all, but then put some back in the container because I measured them out, but I guess I want a few more. I like a really full pie. I noticed that too. I made an apple pie for a small outdoor gathering a few weeks ago with family. And yeah, I followed the instructions and I knew, like, I felt like I should have added some extra apple when I did it, and I should have listened to my instincts. All right, so I added some more blueberries. Don't worry about if the top ones aren't in that batter. It'll be okay. I just wanted a nice rounded full pie dish because, again, these are gonna cook down a little bit, so I don't want my pie to be concave. I don't want it to sink down. All right, so there you go. That's our berries in our pie. It's looking perfect. We just have one more step to go. I'm gonna move some of these dishes so I can show you how to create the crisscross lattice crust on top of your pies. You see this lots traditionally on fruit pies, whole fruit pies, not pumpkin, but like apple or berries. So I have a lot of stuff out today. So this is one of those recipes where I guess I use more than one bowl. Not my favorite, as you know, but let me just clean up my space here so I can show you everything. Got some lime juice on there. All right, so for the top lattice, they call it lattice. It's the crisscross of the pie crust. Let me set this here so we can work it all together. So I have my pie crust. I'm gonna roll it out. This one's nice, it's store-bought, so it's already round. What you're gonna wanna do if you make your own, just roll it out into a round shape, larger than your pie pan, because you want a little bit extra to work with, okay? So then what you're going to do, I cleaned up too many of my utensils. I needed one. You can use a knife, you can use a pizza cutter, which I'm gonna show you that technique, or they have pastry cutters, which look similar to a pizza cutter, but they're smaller in diameter and their blade is wavy, so it gives a prettier appearance to your pie. So if you're entering a pie baking contest, you might want to use one of those. But if you're not and you're just there in your house like myself making your pie, all you need is a table knife or a pizza cutter. Now what we're going to do is we are going to take our crust here and we are going to cut it into about inch strips or ½ inch, okay? We don't want them too wide because then you won't be able to see the berries between your crisscrosses. So I'm going to start at the edge and I'm just going to simply slice my pizza crust, pie crust into strips about that wide, okay? So I'm going to go all the way across my pie crust, and then give me a moment here, folks. Try and do them as even as possible, but like I said, you don't need to get your ruler out for this. You can eyeball it. Again, it's a crust, it's dough, it's going to bake, so the size is going to, it might get a little wider as it bakes. So no one's going to notice if you cut uneven strips. All right, what you're going to do next is we are going to lay strips of dough across or down. We'll go vertical first, okay? And then when we go horizontal, we're going to have to weave it in. It's a weaving pattern. Again, sounds tricky, but it's really not. So I'm going to start by laying my pieces on, and it's just like I'm recreating my circle. I try to grab every other strip because we're leaving space in between our pieces, okay? So I'm not gonna take my second one, I'm gonna take the third one and space it out a little bit, like so, all right? And then I'm gonna take the fourth one, space it out a little bit. You can adjust your spacing. These aren't pushed down or anything, so they're movable. And your dough has a little flour on it, so they're not super sticky at this point, and we haven't pressed anything together, so it's going to be okay to move around. And we're going to go all the way across, laying our pie crust strips on the top of the pie till you get to the other side. And then if you want, just pick one that you feel will fit. I just crushed one of them, so we're short one now, which is fine. We'll get him off of there. He got stuck to the bottom of our pie pan. All right, so I'm going to adjust mine just a hair so they look even, because I'm a bit of a perfectionist. All right, so there is the first half. Simple, right? Now all we want to do is go across the opposite direction, but as we go, we're going to have to lift every other one and go under and over, and I'll show you that as well. So I'm going to take one of my smaller ones. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to simply lift up my second piece, fold him back a little bit. I'm just folding him back. And then I'm going to go over the third one, and I'm going to simply just fold back the fourth one and over the fifth and touch the last one. All right, that's simple. I'm going to go and do the whole pie so you can see it. So next we want to do opposite. I want to go under first this time. So I'm going to lift it from the other direction. Again, leaving a space. We'll go over the second, under the third, over the fourth, and under the last one. So we're all the way across. All right, so I'm just going to keep with my pattern, and you can watch and see how we do it. And again, you can move and adjust them as you need. So I'm going to quickly finish this up, going over and under in opposite directions each time, starting in the opposite direction each time. So now I'm starting over on this one, since I started under on the last one. And this is how we create the lattice crisscross look to a pie crust. I'm just going to adjust these as we're going, because this is going to go right in the oven so I can take it to the office in the morning. So we got 2 more pieces to put on, and then I'll show you how to crimp around the edge. And it'll look like you had a professional make it. I'm going to cut this one a little. I don't need it that long. You'll probably have a little bit of dough left, which is fine, because we're leaving our spaces in between our weave. And there you have it. Your lattice work is done. Now we just have to go around the edge and crimp it. So really all I'm going to do is I'm going to pinch and turn it under a little bit to seal my strips on. And then we'll go back and crimp it again. So go all the way around. I'm going to take it, curl it under, and pinch it under and press it down onto the rim of the pie pan to make sure that everything is secure. If you have some pieces that are hanging over the edge, just simply fold them under and press them down. And then we'll go around and make the really nice crimped look of the pie crust. If you need to, you can brush a little bit of water on the edge. That will act as a glue. We are actually going to brush the top of this with a touch of water or lime juice when we are done. And then we're going to sprinkle a little sugar on top as well. But to do your crimp, I just usually take my one finger, press it into the edge in every other like 1/4 inch. Or you can pinch it. Some people like to pinch their crimp. So we're really just making that nice wavy design along the edge of our pie. So whatever works for you. You can also look up other ideas or techniques. I just like to use my fingers and kind of pinch and push with the side of my finger to make the crimp. And that's all there is to it, folks. So we're going to put this in a 400-degree oven. What you'll want to do, remember, we're going to brush it with a little bit of water and sprinkle a little bit of sugar on top to get that nice crystallized sugar look on top. Then you might want to put some foil just around your pie's edge, because we're going to put this in the oven at 400 degrees for, I think, 10 minutes first, just to really brown it up. And then we're going to turn it down to 350 degrees. You can take your foil off at that time. We just don't want our crust on the edge to burn. And then we're going to bake it for about 40 to 50 minutes. So pies do take a little bit of time to cook, but it's well worth the wait. I hope you enjoyed this recipe. I'll be sharing it in the comments below, and we are going to continue to cooking across America the rest of the week. And this morning's stop was Maine with the wild blueberry pie. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you soon. Thanks.